Hi, everyone. Welcome back after the lunch break. We're very excited to kick off the second half of our day two of India conference with an Inspire series. In this session, we bring to you inspirational stories of 5 young leaders in India. Through their achievements and impact, they're shaping the future of our country, and we are sure that their stories will leave you inspired as well. Known for the popular films Kaala and Kabali, Ranjith is bringing social issues to the forefront through the popular media of films. Apart from writing and directing films, Ranjith has produced documentaries, founded the Castless Collective, an energetic Ghana rap band giving bass to talented artists whose voices weren't heard so powerfully in the mainstream. We have Harssh here, who's an IPS officer posted as the Deputy Commissioner of Nagpur. He conceptualized the Youth Parliament project, which inspired 42,000 youth to fight crime and terror. During the recent spate of mob lynchings in India, he led an operation that rescued a family from a mob. This was possibly the only instance of a successful rescue by the police. He will be talking about handling mob violence in India. We also have Shradha Sharma, who would be joining us shortly. She is the CEO of India's biggest digital media company, covering startups and SMEs, called YourStory. Known for giving voice to Indian startups, she's a tremendous force in the startup ecosystem. Shradha has been named the second most powerful influencer on LinkedIn in India. In the last 9 years, she has published over 70,000 stories of entrepreneurs and on entrepreneurship in 12 languages, with a collective reach of over 50 million a month. And last and not the least, we have Nungshi and Tashi Malik. Instead of giving an introduction myself, we'll be playing a video which depicts their journey very well.
As the youngest persons ever to have completed the last degree Explorers Grand Slam, Tashi and Nungshi Malik are awarded the Leif Erikson Young Explorer Award. They are the first siblings and twins to climb the 7 summits and reach the North and South Poles. The first successful summit was accomplished in February 2012 when they climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, Africa's highest mountain. The next summit would be Mount Everest, which they climbed as first female twins ever in May 2013. By the end of 2014, at the age of 23, they completed the 7 Summits Challenge and then immediately embarked on the last degree ski to the South and North Poles, which they reached, respectively, in late December 2014 and April 2015. Tashi and Nungshi started climbing purely for the love of mountains and sport, but have ended up climbing for a cause: fighting female feticide in India and girl empowerment through outdoors. They established the Nungshi Tashi Foundation to continue their work for women's rights.
Please join my hands to welcome all of our guests, and again. Can we have Harssh, you start off the Inspire series talk with your story? Thank you.
Good afternoon. I am an officer of the Indian Police Service of the 2013 batch, been about 6 years in service. A small reference to myself. I started out as a lawyer. I completed my bachelor's in law from one of the national law schools in India, went on to study a master's at the University of Oxford, and was briefly working as a corporate lawyer in London. This event in particular is a full circle for me because post-Oxford, I had an offer from the Harvard Kennedy School, which I decided to forego in order to write the civil services. And today I'm actually here to speak about my experiences from there. To place our talk in context, most of you are aware that India did suffer a spate of mob lynchings through the course of the previous year in 2018, especially around June as well as July. Most of these were prompted by rumors about kidnapping gangs, which spread sporadically on Facebook as well as WhatsApp. And what we are going to try and do today is sort of analyze what the causes for these instances of mob violence are, what makes the firmament ripe for them, and what law enforcement agencies should be doing in order to prevent them. Our story begins about 170 years from today. 8,000 miles from here is a town called Malegaon in central India. Malegaon has had a very checkered past. But in 1856, when the British annexed Oudh, which was in Uttar Pradesh, present-day Uttar Pradesh, they not only destroyed the political institutions of Oudh, but they also destroyed its economic institutions. The Julahas, a group of, a community rather, of weavers, predominantly Muslims, who used to produce some of the finest silks and cottons in the subcontinent, they suddenly found their market completely destroyed. Why? Because the landed aristocracy of Oudh was no longer there. So as has happened often in history, they made their way to the great ports that the British had set up, Calcutta, Bombay. And en route to these ports, they settled in various hamlets which have grown into towns today, but they carried their North Indian cultural moorings with them. Malegaon is one such town. And we'll use it as a prototype for any small Indian town where instances of mob violence could take place. So therefore, the peculiarity that I would request you to notice is that here you have a group of people who have grown into a town, but nonetheless, they have a cultural setting which is foreign to where they have settled in. So even in Malegaon, the predominant language is actually Hindustani rather than Marathi, which is the language of Maharashtra. To add to this historical complexity is the fact that it is among the top 10 most densely populated urbanscapes in the world. 1 million people packed within 30 square kilometers. That's about 30,000 people within a square kilometer. The demography, 79% Muslim, 18% Hindu, and about 1.5% Buddhist. As the additional SP of Malegaon, I was charged with being in charge of the maintenance of law and order, the investigation of crime, as well as traffic regulation. And like most young IPS officers before me, I began by looking at the previous history of strife within the city. The 26th of October, 2001, a date that welded the history of Malegaon with the United States' war on terror. A few days before this date, a procession had been taken out in Malegaon protesting against the US's invasion of Afghanistan. Allegedly, posters of bin Laden were carried in this procession. So you can imagine the kind of tension that would have inhabited the city. On the 26th of October, leaflets were being distributed before the Jama Masjid of Malegaon. Leaflets that were in Urdu, a language that most Indians still cannot read. The leaflet basically asked for Indians to abjure American products. But a rumor went around that these leaflets were actually in support of terror groups. And that caused skirmishes between Hindus and Muslims of the city, which within hours escalated into a full-scale riot. For 10 days, the city burnt. 13 people were killed in the violence. And the riots continued to spread not just in adjacent talukas, but also in the neighboring districts of Dhule and Jalgaon. That was Malegaon's first experience of fake news and the kind of devastation that it can bring about. In 2006 and 2008, the city suffered serial bomb blasts that killed 44 people through bombs strapped on motorcycles and bicycles on major festivals, mind you. Now, put yourself in the shoes of a citizen of Malegaon. Within the span of a decade, you have witnessed tremendous, major, large-scale communal riots. You have witnessed 2 major bomb blasts. So you have seen these closely. But more closely, you have seen fear. Fear for yourself and for your near and dear ones. And this fear creates a specter in your mind that completely eclipses facts, genuineness, and the power to verify or rationality in your mind. And that is the kind of psychological scenario that typically, that is symptomatic of mob violence. Our story moves ahead to the 1st of July, 2018. Ankit, could we have the video, please? I'm giving you here a short sample of the horror of what a mob lynching typically looks like. Now, it's been captured by CCTV footage, so it might not seem as large scale as they actually are, but this is just one component. On the 1st of July, 2018, I invite you to join me on my own journey through that fateful night. I received a call at about 10:30 p.m. A panicked voice from the other side said that a mob was attacking a family, suspecting them to be kidnappers. I got the location of the incident, and before I could get any other details, the call disconnected. Now, even as a senior police officer, your first port of call is always the inspector of the local police station. I called him up, he wasn't aware of the incident, and I asked him to rush to the spot. 10 minutes later, he called me back, and he said that I could barely hear his voice because there was so much screaming, but the basic details that I could get was that this was a family, 2 men, 2 women, and a baby 2 years old that was being attacked by a mob of about 1,000 people, some of whom were armed, suspecting them to be kidnappers. Why? Because they had read reports on WhatsApp about kidnapping gangs operating within Maharashtra. Now, they were not willing to listen to what the inspector was telling them. He was assuring them that he would take them into custody and actually verify whether these were kidnappers or not. That wasn't good enough for them. They were intent on lynching them, including that baby, then and there. Now, as a senior officer, you will face a dilemma here. You could very well ask your inspector to stay put there, and in no circumstances those people should die. But the problem then is that you are placing the lives of your own men at risk, because the mob is not really going to stop at them. So the best option that you really have is to try and buy for time, and that's what I told my inspector, that he should continue negotiating with them, in fact even reflecting their disaffection, so that we would get a period of delay. Delay, the one thing that stood between devastation and a rescue. We are therefore done with the first phase. We move to the second phase, the second part of your moves, which is cities like Malegaon typically have a reserve striking force, which is known as a riot control platoon. So you dispatch a riot control platoon with an officer more senior than the inspector, the deputy SP. This second party would be better equipped to handle the situation with use of force if necessary. But at the same time, your top priority has to be pacific resolution of this dispute. So if the people won't listen to the police, you try and get someone who they will listen to. You contact the imam of the local Jama Masjid, request him to get there and try and pacify these people. And he does. First, he tries and pacifies them on grounds on religious calls. When they don't listen, he moves on to giving the call for prayer. But the frustrated crowd by now is so agitated that they start heavy stone pelting on the police party as well as the imam. Now, this is a point of inflection for the police. Place yourself in the position of a constable standing there. As a police party, you are heavily outnumbered by a mob which by now has surged to over 3,000 people, many of whom are armed. But you too are armed, with rifles, with grenades. Weapons which, when used in this instance, will cause heavy casualty, including to innocent lives. And imagine yourself in the position of a constable. You see before you people baying for your blood. Why? Because you are shielding them from a family that you have never known or met. Imagine the kind of temptation that you must have to pull out and shoot that one bullet that would help you escape that situation and leave this entire mess to itself. But years of training prevent you from doing that. Remember that we in the police are not a fighting force like the army, we are a protecting force. And it is our duty. Thank you very much. And it is our duty to protect not just that beleaguered family, but also the prosecutors of this mob. It is also our duty to understand that fear, those decades of fear which is being vented out before us at this point of time. While all of this is going on, you, as the additional SP, you are leading for more reserves, the State Reserve Police Force, as well as forces from neighboring police stations, to get to the heart of the riot. Now, your movement is typically going to be slow because this is an old city, dimly lit lanes. If some of you have been to Banaras, it's something like that. So you can imagine how slowly all of the sections of this maneuver would move. But because you've drilled the forces so well, all these sections come in and move together and reach the heart of the riot at the same point of time. Then you start non-lethal baton charges to disperse the crowd and finally reach the point where that family of 5, is still there with that baby, possibly greatly injured in this case. Your first priority is to evacuate them. You stuff them into police vehicles and send them to the furthest point of the city where the mob cannot follow you. And after that, conduct wave after wave of baton charges until the crowd disperses completely. This is the story of how we executed the rescue of a family from a mob lynching, possibly the only one in India, without injuring a single person. Neither the victims nor any of the members of the mob were endangered. But there are interesting points to be gleaned from this entire experience that I think as a student of governance or as a student of public policy might be of tremendous interest. Now, firstly, the typical pattern that you will see is the specter of fear. Malegaon is a city that for decades has lived with conflict, and terrible, bloody conflict at that. Now, that conflict creates an image of such fear that it's very difficult to let rationality get across to the minds of people. Secondly, this is a migrant population, okay? So you're looking at people who for generations have lived surrounded by a larger local population. Neither of them seem to speak the same language. They don't seem to interact with each other. And in a globalizing world, this is going to be increasingly more and more true. In 2001, the riots broke out because no one could read Urdu. And in 2018, it happened because the victim family could only speak Marathi and the ladies were dressed differently. Third is the mob psychology. The reason why most mobs seem almost unstoppable is because its prosecutors think that they are shielded with anonymity. And it is a challenge for law enforcement agencies across the globe to be able to identify people in a mob through technological surveillance. Now, we've done a series of measures in order to resolve these issues. We've run campaigns in order to prevent fake news violence. And I like to divide them into two halves, awareness-based measures and enforcement-based measures that we have executed in Maharashtra. Awareness-based measures. Given the high level of data penetration, we found videos being circulated on social media through various formats extremely helpful, for people to be made aware about fake news. Secondly, we've had meetings, corner meetings, as well as village meetings, where at least when an officer of the rank of sub-inspector speaks about fake news, shows them videos of the edited type, as well as the original video to raise awareness. And we've also recruited religious leaders, both Hindu as well as Muslim, to actually speak against these. That's with regard to awareness. With regard to enforcement, which is the last component of my talk, we have now redone patrolling routes. You see, the thing with mob violence is that it is a major problem mostly in rural areas because rural police stations have vast jurisdictions. It can take almost an hour for you to reach to the furthest point of your police station. So we've redone patrolling routes such that at any point in the day, there are people available even at the furthest limits such that they would be able to reach the spot. At least one police person can reach the spot and defuse the situation. And we've also taken legal remedies, such as prosecuting people under Section 505 of the Indian Penal Code, which provides for a 3-year punishment for those who spread rumors or news that can cause social alarm. Now, in conclusion, it is not my case to say that this is an exhaustive list of remedies for fake news or mob violence based upon rumors. However, what I do want to say is that the solutions, the answers that law enforcement agencies seek here is often to be found in the soil of the place itself, in its geography, in its history, its demography, its economics. But despite that, for most Indians, the model of a police officer is really a Singham or a Simba. And a really over-the-top superhero who refuses to learn, who refuses to listen. And that's not the kind of police force that we need in the 21st century. We need and deserve a police force that understands India, that understands caste, religion, industry, agriculture. And it is only then that we in the Indian police can hope to control the largest democracy that humanity has ever seen. With that, I call my close to a close. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, Harsh. Nungshi and Tashi, can we have you next, please?
I think you can join me also. I feel much better. Oh. Sure. Hi everyone, I'm Nungshi, that's Tashi, Nungshi, I mean, whichever way you look at it. We tend to confuse a lot of people and then get confused ourselves. But because I'm 21 minutes older, I get to speak first, which is a true blessing, I must say. Well, today, looking at us stand here, two educated girls, seemingly well-educated girls, seems like one of those, Western contextual achievements that happen more often. But what may surprise you is that we actually, our background is extreme as some of the adventures we've been on. For example, how many of you can guess that we actually have roots in rural Haryana? And I hope you do know what rural Haryana is like or was like about 30 years ago. I remember going recently to our village in Haryana. Unfortunately, the presentation isn't on, but the picture is very dramatic. Because growing up, I remember Dad spent most of his time there, and as Tashi and I went and spent initial holidays with parents in village, one thing that really struck us, we were very young then, of course, but one thing that still is distinctly clear to us is the fact that there were no girls in public space. Out in the fields, playing in the streets were all boys. We never ever saw a girl play any form of sport in the fields or outside, in any public space. And we used to have like these, hide and seek and our own games within the house, but we never ever stepped out of it. And why am I highlighting this is because, sometimes even if you're born in a very liberal environment, there's a world around our parents which is very dramatic. Our peer groups, to our dad's environment, to our relatives, for some of whom even now some of the biggest anguish is, they're very proud of our achievement and they say, wow, you girls have done so much, is that, but we wish you had a brother. And that's one thing that still strikes us today. It comes back to us somehow. Despite all the achievements and all the proud moments where people feel so happy and excited, but they always have this element of, we wish you had a brother. And what it makes us realize is that even today, for most girls, their world is confined by the gender norms, by the culture, social norms. In fact, I think for us, I'd say rather that two of our earlier childhood experiences really shaped and triggered our lifestyle and our future endeavors. First, of course, is our birth as twin girls in rural Haryana to a farmer family where a lot of people were hoping to have at least the firstborn child as a boy. Our dad was, of course, born after 3 girls with countless visits to different temples by his parents. And he was like treated like this God sent. So Dad, grew up with this desire for a son, and he became so serious about this dream that he actually even pre-decided a name for it. So we used to hear from our relatives, about the cruel dispensation of identity, and more often, me and Tashi were treated as a pity rather than a pride, and that's even true today. When we go to such notorious communities back in Haryana, and the reality really kicks in. The other and perhaps the more powerful story is that Dad's courage to kind of fight his own deep, I would say, insecurities, and also the deliberate pressure from his parents to try for a son. It's nothing short of incredible that a man who grew up with, hoping to have a son, this desire to have a son, suddenly had to support 2 girls in the family. So within a year, he went in to do a vasectomy, and Dad does mention that the birth of 2 of us was for him his biggest transformative moments. So mountaineering, when it came our way, by default rather than by destiny, to us, it just made us realize that as girls, we were capable of so much more. that it kind of sort of liberated us from this deep-held, stereotype, internalized, I think, stereotype images about what a woman should be, what she should look like, and how she should follow her dreams, or they kind of like bracket you out. So for us, some of the earliest learnings came from that, and I think it was, for us, going into all these adventures was not really to prove a point. It was never about a man versus a woman thing, because we believe that mountains don't discriminate based on gender. They really don't know whether you're a girl or a boy. The challenges it throws at you are just the same. So to me, I think it's more about the equal opportunities rather than, or in fact, equal access to these opportunities that girls usually have. And it reminds me of what Dr. Amartya Sen rightly put, that it's not enough to give women and girls opportunities. It's important to provide them with equal enabling environment to even access those opportunities. And we realize that there's a huge disconnect even in that. So for us, that was probably our defining moment to pursue a field which is typically viewed as a male forte, and to prove a point that yes, if given a chance, women can do anything. Well, so, a lot of people actually ask us, what is so special about the Explorers Grand Slam? And so the Explorers Grand Slam, like you all saw, it actually means climbing the tallest peaks in every continent and skiing to the North and South Pole, which takes about 5 to 10 years or a lifetime to accomplish. But when you're trying to push your boundaries and set high benchmarks, then you realize the fact that we did it in 2 years and a month, it just made us believe that the capacity we had within us to actually prove that. So, sorry, my voice is really bad this morning. But yeah, I just wanted to say that the Explorers Grand Slam that we were on, whether it was about recouping after an expedition or planning really well, because for us, we only had 2 months before we could go into an expedition. And like I said, having done it in 2 years, we were really pushing our bodies to an extreme environment, to an extreme condition. And we realized that even to regain, we used to lose like about 12 kgs on an expedition, and to come back and then to regain for the next mission, because we knew we were going to lose as much, and we weren't even 60 kgs. So you can imagine the kind of dramatic impact it had on our bodies. But we realized that for us, Explorers Grand Slam meant that. For us, it was about overcoming our own challenges and overcoming our own fears that, like my sister said, we grew up with. Inherently, honestly, we never doubted our path. And during our Explorers Grand Slam pursuit, we were solely focused on making a success of each of our climbs. But the context and environment sometimes adversely affect us. Like outsiders did not matter much to us, but our biggest challenge came from our own home place, which was our mom, who would internalize her fear and put them onto us, about our career, about our path. But we believe that this is a likely condition that would come with breaking stereotypes or, challenging norms or treading on a path less traveled. And now we are more prepared to take more such challenges, because now we are aware of the kind of surroundings that can have an impact on your own self. And I remember, so one of these expeditions we did in Alaska, it was the highest in North America called Mount Denali. So when you measure the height of a mountain, you measure it from sea level to the summit. But when you measure how tall it is, you measure it from base camp to the summit. And I remember going for Denali, it was 18,000 feet from base camp to the summit versus Everest, which is 12,000 feet from base camp to the summit, which is 6 times more difficult and technical than Everest. And I remember before leaving out for this expedition, obviously we had given our 100%, we prepared well, we had read so much about Denali, and obviously it's a very intimidating mountain. But when we actually went there, to our surprise, we had climbed for the whole week. Unfortunately, the presentation is not working, otherwise you could have seen what it takes to actually go through the camps, different camps. But we reached Camp 3, and we had 8 to 9 days on the mountain, so you get permits to climb a peak. And if you extend that extra permit, you end up paying exactly the same amount. So we were in this tent, and the next morning we woke up, we unzipped the tent, and there was a big storm. So obviously not what we expected, because we had done the map reading and we had seen the weather forecast. And to our surprise, that weather thing, it was a snowstorm for a week. So imagine living in a tent the size of your bed with absolutely no means to come out. It was a nightmare for the two of us. And at that point of time, when we were climbing in 2014, I remember there were 500 teams on the mountain. 485 had already left. Obviously, everybody was, suggesting we leave too. And they were like, Tashi, Nungshi, honestly, this is not going to be your thing. Why don't you retreat? But no matter, it's kind of difficult, because no matter how much you tell yourself the financials don't, play up, they do. And coming all the way from India to Alaska, who's going to get that opportunity again? So we knew we not only had the physical challenge, which we had to stay courageous and face the storm, but we did. And I remember, one of our friends actually lended us a satellite phone. He's like, why don't you inform your parents that you're stuck up here and, probably not going to make it. And, we usually tell all the bad things to our dad. So I called up dad's number. I was like, Dad, this is like, we were just abusing. And we're like, this is not going to happen. I don't think we're going to make it, but apologies if we don't. And we didn't realize it was mom who picked up. So, when we went back home, obviously, she's like, you guys gave me a nightmare. And we always, paint a cozy picture for mom because, otherwise she's always been a very anti-mother in terms of both of us, pursuing the same sport. But then obviously, we stayed on, and I think just with this whole cosmic energy, we was like, let's just give it one more day, one more try. You never know, we were running out of rations. And the next morning we wake up and it's a bright sunny day. It felt like it was on our favor. So we're like, let's give this a try. And I remember leaving out from camp, we reached Camp 4 after 8-9 hours of hiking. And the next morning when we actually left out for the summit of Denali, it's like I said, very intimidating climb. It was, I think, the first time we ended up getting frost nips, super cold, and our season it was minus 45 not only on the summit, but throughout. And I remember we were 400 meters, short of the cliff, and we could see the summit. It was right there. And so with us, we saw another team members who were from Dubai. They were the presidential guards. Tough guys, like super strong, 10 times our size, and they also sat down to drink and hydrate, and so did we. And then after a while, we got up to like move for the summit. I mean, how much would you take to do 400 meters? Like on ground, maybe like not even 15, 20 minutes. But on the summit of Denali, it takes about 7 hours to just do 400 meters. So obviously when we started out again, we spoke to the guards and we're like, hey guys, are you coming up with us? And they said, no, our energy is low. Don't think we can make it. And so at that point, I was kind of like contemplating with my own self. I was like, I can see the summit, like it's right there. And the kind of energy you need to actually get up there is going to be quite something. But we took that chance and we persevered. We still went on and I'm telling you, after the 7 hours when we stood on top of Mount Denali, it was kind of a revelation for us. And at that point I realized that in life, for us, no matter how many challenges we've gone through, but the biggest challenge we have faced is to overcome our fears. Because fear lies to you. It tells you can't do a certain thing because you're not capable. Or it lies to you saying that you're a girl, you're a woman, you can't stand on the summit. But that's a fallacy, because I feel unless you get out of your comfort zones, you'll never know what you're capable of. So my parting message to all you ladies and gentlemen, fine young men and women, is that you all are the gravity for change. You're the pull and the drive to change this world for better, to make the outdoor culture, to learn beyond your classrooms, and prove that it's only with such progressive culture can we make this world a better place. So let's join hands and work towards a progressive culture. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, how to speak? I'm going to speak Tamil. I'm very comfortable in my own language. Okay, we have a translator. Okay. நான் அட்டகத்தி என்னோடய ஃபர்ஸ்ட் மூவி அட்டகத்தி மெட்ராஸ் கபாலி காலா அப்புறம் நான் ஒரு படம் ப்ரொடியூஸ் பண்ணியிருக்கேன் பரியேறும் பெருமாள் BABL மேலே ஒரு கோடு அண்ட் ஆல்சோ நான் நீலம் கல்ச்சர் சென்டர்னு சொல்லிட்டு ஒரு சென்டர் நடத்திட்டுருக்கோம் அண்ட் ஆல்சோ இந்த காஸ்ட்லெஸ் கலெக்டிவ் அப்படின்னு ஒரு பேண்டு க்ரியேட் பண்ணியிருக்கேன் அதோட ஷார்ட் ஃபிலிம்ஸ் டாக்குமெண்ட்ரிஸ் இதெல்லாம் பண்ணிட்டுருக்கோம் இது தான் இப்போ ரீசெண்ட் டைமில் பண்ணிகிட்ருக்குது.
Okay.
Yes,
there are two translators, in fact. So he was just recounting the movies that he made, Pariyarum Perumal and Kaala, Kabali. He also runs the Neelam Cultural Center and the Casteless Collective. So he was just recounting all the stuff that he does.
எனக்கு கல்ச்சுரல் சேஞ்ச் மேலே ஒரு பெரிய நம்பிக்கை இருக்குது. சரி, ஃபைட்ஸ் சண்டை நிறைய இருக்குது. சண்டை போட வேண்டியது வந்து ஓன் பீப்புள் கூட தான், என் கூட சொந்தமாக இருக்கிற, நான் பேசுகிற பழகிற, என் தெருக்கு பக்கத்தில் இருக்கிற, அப்புறம் என்னுடைய நேஷ்னாலிட்டிக்குள்ளே தான் என்னுடைய மிகப்பெரிய சண்டை இருக்குது. ஆக்சுவலி அந்த சண்டை என்னென்னா, கல்ச்சுரல் சேஞ்ச். யாருடைய கல்ச்சர்? என்னுடைய கல்ச்சர். ஆக்சுவலி கல்ச்சுரல் சேஞ்ச் தான் மிக முக்கியமானதாக நான் நினைக்கிறேன். என்னுடைய கல்ச்சர் இங்கே ஏன் கல்ச்சராகவே பார்க்கப்படலை, அந்த கேள்வி ரொம்ப முக்கியமானது. ரெடி ரைட்?
I strongly believe cultural change. The fight is not with my community or with the society, but the fight is with the entire culture of this nation, because I don't understand which culture is my culture.
I'm a non-vegetarian. And also I'm eating beef. I'm a beef eater. It's a different, right? Whether vegetarian or non-vegetarian. I'm a non-vegetarian and also eating beef. When I'm eating beef, I'm become untouchable. What the fuck going on? என்னுடைய உணவு, என்னுடைய மொழி, என்னுடைய உடை, என்னுடைய கலர், இதெல்லாம் பிரச்சனைன்னு இங்கே கல்ச்சர் அப்படின்றது வந்து என்னுடைய கல்ச்சர் இல்லை அப்படின்றது வந்து எனக்கு ஒரு மிகப்பெரிய கோபம் இருந்தது. ஆக்சுவலி அந்த கோபத்தின் அடிப்படையில் தான் நான் ஒய் நாட் நான் படம் பண்ணணும்னு நினைக்கல. ஐ டோன்ட் வாண்ட் பிகம் எ ஃபிலிம் டைரக்டர். ஐ ஜஸ்ட் வாண்ட் பிகம் ஆர்ட் டைரக்டர் ஆர் அனிமேட்டர், லைக் காமன் மேன். லைக் ஆனால் சினிமா இட்ஸ் அ பிகஸ்ட் மீடியம் இன் அவர் India. Cinema is like a mass. Cinema produces a lot of chief ministers. Why? But cinema not என்னை சொல்லவே இல்லை, என்னை ஷோ பண்ணவே இல்லை. சினிமா அரௌண்ட் 80 years cinema after independence. Before independence also, okay. That time also our problem is not a Indian problem. It's not like a Indianized problem. அப்போது தான் எனக்கு தோணுச்சு, அப்போது வெரி டிஃப்ரெண்ட் இந்தியன் கல்ச்சரை புரிஞ்சுக்கிறது. In every step you have seen, you have meet inequality. Ambedkar said clearly, there's a greater inequality. ஒவ்வொரு கிரேட்லேயும் இன்இக்வாலிட்டி இருக்கும். யூ ஆர் அ பிராமின், யூ ஹவ் அ இன்இக்வாலிட்டி லைக் ஐயங்கார்ஸ், லாட் ஆஃப் காஸ்ட். அதே போல் சத்ரியாஸ், வைசியாஸ், சுத்ராஸ். ஐ எம் நாட் சுத்ராஸ், ஐ எம் ஃப்ரம் பஞ்சமாஸ். திஸ் கைஸ் நாட் allowed in Varna system also. I'm really proud. Okay.
Can we translate this?
Sorry.
So we have third person helping us in case. So the first he said, he was talking about Dalit representation in cinema. He's saying my food, my dress, my language, my color, my body, everything was a problem. I was angry. He's saying I was angry that, which is the question about what is really my culture. And he said he never planned on becoming a director. He always envisioned himself as perhaps an animator or an art director. But he realized at some point that cinema is mass. Cinema is what people watch and understand. And even in post-independent cinema of India, Dalit representation has been dismal. He's saying the way Dalits are represented and Dalit representation, he's saying at every step you met inequality. Like Ambedkar said, there are grades of inequality. If you're a Brahmin, I mean, those parts you must have understood that, yeah, Ayers and Iyengars and Brahmin. And he's saying he's a Panchama who's even excluded from the Varna system.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, you're right. Okay. I'm an artist, painter. Okay, I've been following Gauguin. I love Gauguin. First I love Rembrandt. He's very romanticized artist. After I met Gauguin, he's my master. He's not romanticized. He drove tribals. Like you should go watch. You should go search Gauguin. No, it's a great master. First time Gauguin உடைய பெயிண்டில் என் கலரை பார்த்தேன்.
So for the first time he saw his color in the Gauguin's painting.
Okay. See அப்போ தான் காகின் எனக்கு ரொம்ப பிடிச்சாரு. Gauguin, I really very much liked Gauguin painting. That's why அவர் வந்து இந்த ட்ரைடோட கலரு ரெம்பிரண்ட்டுக்கும் காகினுக்கும் பயங்கர டிஃப்ரென்ஸ் இருக்குது. ரெம்பிரண்ட் வந்து ரொமான்டிசைஸ் ஹியூமன் பாடி, பட் காகின் நாட் அ ரொமான்டிசைஸ்ட். வாட் இஸ் தேர், என்ன இருக்குதோ அது அப்படியே வரைஞ்சார். லைக் ஈவன் விமன், சீரியஸ்லி விமன் வந்து நமக்கு எல்லாருமே ஒரு என்ன சொல்கிறது, ஒரு கவர்ச்சி, அழகு, இதுக்கு தான் பேசிக்லி தே ஆர் ட்ரைங் டு ரிப்போர்ட் இட் கீப். இன்றைக்கி வரைக்கும் அதுதான் பண்ணிட்டுருக்காங்க. ஆனால் காகின் அப்போயே ஒடிச்சார். அது காகின் வந்து கம்பேர் பண்ணுறாரு உமனை வந்து, நான் இன்னொரு உழைக்கிற ஒரு உடம்பை ஒரு அழகை நான் உனக்கு காட்டுறேன்னு சொன்னார் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் டைமாக. ஐ ரியலி மூட். காகின்லேருந்து என்னுடைய பொலிட்டிக்கல் ஐடியாலஜி தொடங்குதுன்னு நான் நினைக்கிறேன்.
Gauguin's work is full of reality. He never romanticizes, and for the first time ever in the art, he said that I'm going to show you the real body of labor and the real bodies of the marginalized and the underprivileged, and of women also who were generally glamorized.
So working class, he captured working class, he painted always working class people. அந்த டைமில் தான் நான் என்னுடைய ஃபஸ்ட் இயர் I was in college. I met a lot of world masters via film. Okay, Cinema Paradiso, Battle of Algiers, City of God, Children of Heaven, Battleship Potemkin, lot of movies. Seriously, இந்த படம்ல தான் எனக்கு வந்து சினிமானா என்னன்னு சொல்லி கொடுத்தது. உண்மையிலே வந்து சினிமா, நான் பார்க்குற சினிமா, எனக்கு முன்னாடி இருந்த சினிமா, இதில் எதுவுமே வந்து இந்த அரசியலை இந்த மாதிரியான ஒரு பொட்டென்ஷியலில் என்னால் புரிஞ்சிக்க முடியல. ஃபஸ்ட் டைமாக பேட்டில் ஆஃப் அல்ஜீரியஸ், இட்ஸ் அமேசிங் மூவி. அந்த படம் பார்த்ததுக்கப்புறம் வந்து நான் அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு படம் எடுக்கணும்னு நினைக்கல. ஆனால் அந்த அவன் போர்ட்ரேட் பண்ணியிருக்கிற கல்ச்சர், அந்த ப்ராப்ளம் அவனுடைய லேண்ட்லேருந்து வந்திருக்கு. அவனுடைய ஓன் லாங்குவேஜ் அது. ஐ வாண்ட் டு ஸ்பீக் மை ஓன் லாங்குவேஜ். ஐ டோன்ட் வாண்ட் டு ஸ்பீக் represent in others, like in our movies, in the Indian cinemas. Doesn't show like 5 minutes. That's it. அப்போ தான் நான் யோசித்தேன், தலித் ஐடியாலஜி விட தலித் ஐடென்டிட்டி சினிமாவில் இருக்கா இந்தியன் சினிமாவில் அப்படின்னா இல்லை. பெரிய பிரச்சனை என்னை வந்து என்னுடைய கல்ச்சரை முதல்ல அவங்க ஏற்றுக்கவே இல்லை. இந்தியன்ஸ் லைக் இந்தியன் சினிமா தலித் கல்ச்சரை ஏற்றுக்கவே இல்லை, என்னுடைய உணவை ஏற்றுக்கவே இல்லை, என்னுடைய நிறத்தை ஏற்றுக்கவே இல்லை. அதனால் நான் என்னுடைய லாங்குவேஜை, என்னுடைய லைஃப்பை நான் பேசணுன்னு நான் ட்ரை பண்ணேன். லைக் சவுத் இந்தியா லெவலில் ஃபஸ்ட்டு, அப்புறம் நேஷ்னல் லெவலில் காலா வந்து நேஷ்னல் லெவலில் ஒரு முக்கியமான படமாக மாறிச்சு. எனக்கு அந்த ஸ்பேஸை உருவாக்குறதுக்கு எனக்கு ஒரு பெரிய ஸ்ட்ரகிள் இருந்தது. ஆனால் அந்த டைமில், ஏன்னா we are not used it. This kind of story is not a commercialized success. That's a big thing.
Yeah. So the movies he told of Battles of Algeria and City of Gods, those were the movies that portrayed the real culture of people. And in fact, those movies taught him was what cinema is. And in the Indian cinema, in the history of Indian cinema, the Dalit identity was not represented. So he felt that the language, his culture, his food, his colors were never accepted by the popular mainstream Indian cinema. So he wanted to make movies on his own to make a space for his culture, his language, his food, and his color, which represents the underprivileged Dalit community in India.
Thank you. And also I decided I don't want to go separated. I don't want to make an art movie like a art house. I just want to make a mainstream discussion. I'm a common man. why don't you show, why you show like, we like suppression, no? I don't want a suppression. I just want to make a mainstream, like blacks, like a James Baldwin, like Malcolm X, like Martin Luther King, Ryan Coogler. Spike Lee is my master. ஏன்னா பிளாக்ஸ் மட்டும்தான் கல்ச்சரல் ரெவல்யூஷனராக இன்றைக்கி வந்து இந்த 21வது நூற்றாண்டில் பிளாக்ஸோடைய கல்ச்சுரல் ரெவல்யூஷன், அவனுடைய நிறம், மொழி, உடை எல்லாத்தையும் வந்து மெயின் ஸ்ட்ரீமில் கொண்டு வந்து இன்றைக்கி வந்து மெயின் ஸ்ட்ரீமை கேப்சர் பண்ணியிருக்கிற மிக பவர்ஃபுல்லான ஆட்களாக பிளாக்ஸை பார்க்குறேன். நான் பிளாக்ஸை ஃபாலோ பண்ணுறேன். டெஃபினட்டாக இந்தியாவிலையும் தலித்ஸ் இட் வில் மேக்ஸ் வின் லைக் பிளாக்ஸ். தேங்க்யூ. And also I want to add one more thing, please. அது சொல்லிடுறீங்களா?
So he's saying that what the African American community has done here, which is to basically bring their language, their body, to popularize it through cinema and art. That is what he aims to do. That is what he wanted to do. So about the Battle of Algiers, one more point he made is when he watched that movie, it was said in the language of that people. So for him, Indian cinema never represented his language, which was the reason why he decided to make movies. So he says he wants to emulate, he looks upon what African Americans in the space of popular culture has done in America, and he wants to follow that in his cinema.
And also Ambedkar is my master. I follow very much. Okay. அவர் இல்லைன்னா நான் இல்லை, நாங்கள் இல்லை, அது மாதிரி ஒரு பெரிய கதை இருக்குது அதுக்கு. சரி, அவருடைய ஒரு என்ன சொல்கிறது, அவருடைய தூண்களா இல்லை அவருடைய ஒரு சின்ன இன்ஸ்பிரேஷன், அவருடைய லாங்குவேஜ்லேருந்து இல்லை அவருடைய ஒர்க்லேருந்து இன்ஸ்பயர் ஆன ஒரு சின்ன ஆட்களில் தான் நான் இருக்கேன். என்னுடைய ஒர்க் அப்படின்றது வந்து டெஃபினட்டாக கல்ச்சுரலாக பெருசாக எஃபெக்டிவ்ஃபுல்லாக மாறணும். நம்ம முதல்ல வந்து அக்செப்ட் பண்ணிக்கணும், நம்ம எல்லோரும் ஒன்று, நம்மளுடைய கல்ச்சர் எல்லாமே ஈக்குவல் அப்படின்றது வந்து ரொம்ப முக்கியமானது. அம்பேத்கருடைய கனவு ஒன்று தான், ஆண்டாண்டு காலமாக அடிமைப்பட்டு கிடக்கிற மனித மாண்பை மீட்டெடுக்கிற போராட்டம். அந்த மனித மாண்பை என்னுடைய கலையின் வழியாக நான் மீட்டெடுக்கான முயற்சியில் இருக்கேன். என்னோட சேர்ந்து நிறைய பேர் இருக்காங்க. ஜெய் பீம்.
Yeah, Ambedkar was my inspiration. If Ambedkar was not there, I would not be there. The rest is too difficult for me.
Yeah. So we should accept that all the cultures are equal and we all people are equal. And it is the dream of Dr. Ambedkar to revive the human dignity which has not been provided to the underrepresented, the Dalits, and the Dalits were never treated equal. So we should all strive in human dignity, equality, and respect.
I just think that if we were attending a TED conference or something, then we would have given a standing ovation to the speakers, right? So come on, you guys, please get up. उठ जाइए, दोपहर शाम हो रही है और जोरदार तालियां. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Yeah. Thank you. Sit down. See how clever I am now. Even if I speak rubbish, then you guys will have to stand and say something. You know, generally it's amazing, and I think one thing I feel that we don't do enough is genuinely, truly and lovingly appreciate. Wow, extraordinary. And समझ में नहीं आया, अब मैं हिंदी में बोलूँगी. आधा समझ में नहीं आया, but amazing, amazing, amazing. Thank you. You know, so very honored to be here, and I'll just start with a story because we are here in such an amazing Harvard, wow. So that you understand how, you know, the people who called me should realize how irrelevant it was to call me. I'll tell you a story. So I just went to a very elite gathering like this, and there were some very successful venture capitalists and very, very, you know, matlab aap samajh sakte hain, all the suited booted guys, $1 billion and above, and all those kind of people, like most of you will be if you are not already. And so I went to that gathering, and it was in a 5-star hotel by invite only, right? You have this patta like that, only something you had to wear, and then only you get access, otherwise you don't. But I didn't have the patta because the money was too high to enter, right? It was by invite only. I hope all of you understand what is by invite only, right? So, क्योंकि वो एक बहुत amazing equality weapon होता है by invite only. Either you're in the club or you're not in the club. So this dinner was in a very fancy 5-star hotel in India, in Bangalore, where I stay, and they said, oh, but you know, you're not allowed. Do you have an invitation? I said, no, I don't, but I'm a startup. I really want to go inside. Please give me 5 minutes. I'll go and impress everyone in 5 minutes and come back. And this woman is looking like, really? She's such a psychopath, and these pathetic people. And I said, listen, I know in a 5-star hotel, the cost per plate is 2,000 rupees. I'm not going to eat. तो आपका पैसा बच जाएगा मैं पास सिर्फ जाऊंगी आ जाऊंगी but I was like so desperate maybe I think she would have been recruited to manage the reception that she said okay 5 minutes but if you stay more than 5 minutes then I will lose my this role I won't get paid I said okay just 5 minutes and I enter into that great amazing room with all the big boys and all the big amazing people and suddenly someone who is very big and very famous comes in newspapers regularly in India. I go to him. Matlab kya darna? Matlab there's nothing to lose, right? I've not been invited. Kya hai? Kya? Apna ullu banao, bhago. Chalo theek hai. So I go inside and I say, hi. And he's like, hi, generally you get an attention, right? Wearing great, amazing, happy women. So generally men will say hi, right? They'll respond, right? We will understand women, right? Like we're colorful Indian women. And I'm like, hi. And this guy's like, hi. I said, my name is Shradha. And he's like, okay, as if. So he says, what do you do? He asks me. Because that's our definition, right? We all judge each other and our pattas by what do we do? Uske alawa to kuch hai hi nahi. What do we do? Who are we? What do you do? I am like the super diva. And I tell him, maybe I had this swagger and must have done my hair. Us समय उतना बड़ा बाल नहीं था कुछ. But ऐसे वैसे कुछ किया and I said, your story. And then he looks at me, excuse me? I said, your story. Then he looks at me and he says, no, what I was asking is what do you do during daytime? डे टाइम में मतलब ये लल्ला लल्ला लोरी सुनाती हूँ क्या रहता है अरे I said I do this during daytime, nighttime, every day, like all the time. I do your story. And it's like, yeah, is this a job? Right? It is a hobby, right? Your story, we tell stories, our parents have been telling grandparents at night, how can this be a job? फिर मुझे लगा जोर का तमाचा मैंने कहा नहीं I started justifying. I started saying, this is who I am, this is your story, I tell stories, I do this. And absolutely he looks at me and there's an amazing art which only rich and famous and amazingly successful people do. They look at you as if you don't exist. If you haven't, then master it so you might become rich and successful. Oh my God, because I was just doing nothing, but I was just telling stories. And then he turns away, मतलब इतना U-turn इतने जल्दी का लिया कि बहुत धक्का लगा. And then after that, I felt very bad. I felt very sad, yeah, because all of us have our identity with what do we do, and I'm very proud of what I did, which is tell stories. मगर वो लगा कि ये तो useless, is not in my club, and I was actually not invited in that club, right? And I walk out of that hotel. I walk out, I thank the girl, and she was very happy. ये 5 minutes बोला था, 3 minutes में only she's coming out. That's amazing, right? I'm like, okay. But I was feeling very bad, and I was feeling very left out, and I was feeling very, very sad. And I then remembered how many times in my life and how many times I've just been made to feel like I'm nothing. I'm just nothing. Very ordinary person. We're all ordinary. मतलब हम तो amazing, like 400 meters in 7 hours. मतलब मेरे तो जिंदगी में ना हो. ये सब इतने बड़े लोग के सामने, always you feel like I'm nothing. And my journey has been about this nothingness. And I'll take you back to a story because, I come from a state when I was growing up was supposed to be nothing. You talked about rural Haryana. I was to उसके अभी बाप के जगह state से आती हूँ, Bihar. Have you heard of Bihar? Like, मतलब मतलब कहाँ मेरा बाप बिहार, like बिहार से, and we're a family of 4 daughters. I kept on telling my parents कि बच्चा पैदा करते गए 4 बेटियाँ, अंत में बेटा था. I was like, how horny were you, my parents? And I'm like, oh, आज सदगुरु जी कह रहे थे ना about horny and sex and producing and not producing and all those kind of things. Reminded me of my childhood. मेरी माँ तो 5 बच्चे प्रोड्यूस कर दी, 4 उसमें से गर्ल्स थे, एक अंत में बेटा निकला. So तब जाके बंद हुआ. You know, but the thing is, have you, any one of you have experienced Biharis in your life? Who has not experienced a Bihari? Oh, क्या बात है. तो एक जोक बताती हूँ, and this is very important, and you will appreciate it, how all of us are compartmentalized in our own journeys. In Bihar, we have a very interesting way of saying, हम आ रहे हैं. हम आ रहे हैं. हम आ रहे हैं. तो लोग पूछते हैं आप कितने लोग आ रहे हैं, right? हम आ रहे हैं, right? And the question in my life has been, कितने लोग आ रहे हैं, हम कर रहे हैं. So after Bihar I studied and I went to St. Stephen's College, supposedly very good, not like Harvard, but मेरा Harvard से भी सही है मेरे ख्याल से भी, इंडिया में तो अच्छा है. तो वहाँ गए, वहाँ पे people used to ask me, hey Shradha, can you please speak in Hindi? And I'm very proud of speaking in Hindi, right? Because Hindi is our national language, we're proud of our languages, right? And I was like, okay. Then they say, please tell no, I'm coming. I'll say, हम आ रहे हैं, and all the boys will start laughing, and I'll start thinking, wow, they find me cute, right? They find me cute and hot and nice and cool and amazing, and all the boys and girls, and girls भी आगे मैं सोची, I'm so cool that boys, girls, everyone finds me super cool. They'll say, speak in Hindi, no? It was like a national pastime in my college where people used to say, speak in Hindi, and speak in Hindi was हम आ रहे हैं, right? And I was always ridiculed, and over time I realized that there is a beauty of getting rejected and ridiculed and made fun of, because then you go on to create the best story. Just 5 minutes है इसलिए बहुत जल्दी बोलूँगी. Today, I'm very proud that I've got invited to Harvard University. ना तो कभी पैसा था, एम्बिशन था कि कहीं, और ना तो इंटेलिजेंस था कि यहाँ आ सकूँ, बट आई ट्वीटेड कि हार्वर्ड जा रही हूँ, बहुत बड़ी बात है. But I'm very proud to share that I have a story of rejections, not being on the table, always being told that you're not good enough, you're not capable of, not, you know, मतलब आप मैडम थोड़ा खसकिए, और आप जो मुझे खसकने से मैंने अपनी स्टोरी खुद बनाई है. Today I run the largest digital media company in India. I reach 20 million people. स्टोरी टेलिंग से मैंने वेंचर कैपिटल पैसा रेज किया, सीरीज ए रेज किया, सीरीज बी रेज किया, और कर लूँगी CDEFG जो भी होता है. आजकल कोई कहते हैं $1 बिलियन बनाना है, तो ठीक है वो भी बना लेंगे, जो करना है कर लेंगे. एंड वाई आई एम वेरी प्राउड, बिकॉज आई केम टू US to sign a deal, hopefully, which I shouldn't announce right now, but a very big deal with company, just to, you know, an Indian company, a startup, and my story to sign with the biggest story over here, and which hopefully all of you will hear very quickly. And this has all happened because I'm ordinary and I have loved every story. We have told 80,000 stories in India, stories which people thought were not cool. I'm proud to say that all the big stories which you hear, from Flipkart to Ola to blah blah to blah blah, we told it with love, passion, emotion from 2008. And since 2008 to 2019, we've been telling stories day and night, and with lot of love, lot of pride. And मेरा ये है कि हम अमेरिका में आते हैं और कहते हैं अरे अमेरिका में न्यूयॉर्क टाइम्स इतना बड़ा है, हार्वर्ड इतना बड़ा है, सब कुछ इतना बड़ा है. I feel time has come when we say that there is a made in India media business which is as global, as big and as superior, and which tells stories. और वो मैं बनाऊंगी, and I'll make it, and I'll make it happen, and I'll not make it happen because I will make it happen. I will make it happen because I have 80,000 people who love me and support me. I'll make it happen because all the startups who failed succeeded, everyone who shared this story, and we will do it together because the time has come where I feel दूसरों की जय से पहले खुद को जय करें. And I feel proud to be an Indian. I'm very honored to be in Harvard, and thank you so much for this opportunity. अब आप लोग खड़े हो जाइए और थोड़ा ताली बजाइए अपने लिए और हमारे लिए. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Thank you.